All right. Welcome to our next talk by Kubecka of the Middle East Institute. And her talk is called Revenge is Best Served over IoT.
Excellent. Well, good afternoon, everybody. For those who don't know me, my name is Kubecka. I am the Distinguished Chair for the Middle East Institute Cyber Program. I also own a company that only handles nation-state incident response for governments in the Netherlands. And my concentration is critical infrastructure, so lots of control systems and lots of cyber warfare. I'm also a mostly ethical hacker, mostly. I used to head the information protection group for this tiny little company called Aramco. You may have heard of Saudi Aramco. And I came from the Air Force, both as an aircrew member and Space Command before they changed it to Space Force. So I have run into the Iranian government on multiple occasions, ever since 2012 when they attacked Saudi Aramco and was bringing down the entire oil market. I was the one they called up to actually restore international business operations. And we've had some run-ins, but to put it very nicely, I think we all know that the Iranian government has a passion for enrichment of nuclear materials. They were hit before Shamoon with Stuxnet to actually target those things. And they are a big power player in the Middle East and Northern African region. They like to disrupt. There's lots of terrorism. Earlier this year, there was a diplomat from the Iranian Embassy here in Vienna who was sent to prison because he gave bomb materials to some German folks because they were going to kill a bunch of Iranian government and exile people at a protest. So they're a very interesting group and country. So back in 2016, I got this LinkedIn message. And I don't know about most of you, but I barely use LinkedIn because most of it's like, hey, can I connect? Let me try to sell you something. Hey, I'd love to recruit you for this job that you have either no experience for, it's really junior. Let me waste my time. I've also been solicited for large shipments of fentanyl and other illegal drugs. It's amazing, at the time, LinkedIn had no way to report those things. But oh well. And so I get this message, and they're like, hey, we're from this Iranian telecom, and we're looking to do some training, but what we'd like to do is do what's called the GPEN, which is a course I have taught before, but for industrial control systems. I'm like, oh, sounds interesting. I mean, are your people going to be in Europe, what have you? And we got to kind of know each other. Where it started out kind of innocent until it didn't. Because there are certain sanctions where, at the time that this was occurring, sanctions were partially lifted. So for instance, if they had come to the EU, then I could have given them training. However, it started to turn a bit dodgy. So as we're speaking, and this lasted for years, because I was also very, very ill. I was terminally ill. Luckily, I am still here during this. But there was a lot of communications. And finally, they let the cat out of the bag, I think is the saying. What they wanted me to do was come to Iran, right, and teach how to hack critical infrastructure, with a focus on nuclear facilities. Awesome, right? Now, who would say yes to 100,000 euro a month? In Iran, and you might never come back, and if you do, you're going to be in a tiny jail cell. At least I will. US prison does not sound nice. Not at all. So during this time frame, I had been taking names and everything, and they had set up this elaborate campaign to try to recruit me. They set up about 6 different websites, about 16 different fake personas from social media, fake business registrations. An agent handler in this case is the person who is directly responsible for trying to recruit you. And this was the picture of the agent handler that was put up as public. It's not a real picture. Well, it is a real picture, but it's not the agent handler. And one of the reasons why they contacted me not only was because of my background with Saudi Aramco, but I used to lecture for the Center for Protection of National Infrastructure, which is part of GCHQ in the United Kingdom. And I actually have a background in cybersecurity for nuclear facilities. I've been through quite a few of them now. They are not generally made public, because you might want to know about them, but you don't really actually want to know about them. Let's be honest, right? So during this whole time, I'm like, all right, I'm taking names, I'm recording conversations, because I'm seeing that this is dodgy as frack, right? So I'm like, who do you call when a foreign government is trying to illegally bribe you and the espionage portion may or may not be legal? By the way, most governments allow a certain level of espionage. It's not technically illegal, depending on the circumstance. It's always fun stuff dealing with governments. And so I tried the CIA tip line, because I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll try the CIA. CIA tip line sent me to their public relations office. I'm like, what? And I dialed again, and I dialed nothing. All right. So I had met this FBI agent at Security B-Sides years ago. I'm like, oh, let me look up his email. And I go, hey, blah, 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 this has been going on. Here's some of the names. Here's some of the, phone numbers, email addresses, websites and stuff. I didn't get a response. I was like, okay. I did not know that he actually left the FBI, but they leave the mailboxes open. I tried the Department of Treasury, who handles a lot of the sanction stuff. Didn't get a response. So after about 2 years, the 2-year mark, I'm at a friend's retirement party at West Point. And I get this WhatsApp message. And we're drinking, we're having some nice scotch. I'm looking at my phone, and I burst out laughing. And I'm just laughing my ass off. And what had happened was they gave me an even more interesting offer. In the meantime, since I did not think that it was a serious matter, because, hey, nobody had responded, they even offered over WhatsApp a way to do business around sanctions, not directly, but still a way to do business and skirt sanctions, and how to get paid for this work, to do some very, very naughty things. They just decided to put it in WhatsApp because, whatever, man. Sure, okay. Like, I wouldn't put that in a presentation if you're that dumb. I'm sorry. That's just me. So the interesting message I got was, hey, how are you? Listen, we would love your home address so we can send you a gift. Now, who wants a gift from the Iranian government? Challenge accepted. I'll give them your address next time. And so the guy who's standing next to me, he's like, oh, what are you laughing at? Probably thinking it's a funny cat meme or something, right? And I'm like, oh, it's the Iranian government again. They want my home address to give me a gift. He goes, what? And I go, oh, it's no big deal. I mean, I tried contacting the FBI and CIA. They didn't respond, so what's the big deal? And he goes, well, I work with the FBI, and that's a big deal. So turns out they opened up an investigation. I got to the right people. And they contact me, and they're like, yeah, so there's been a couple of assassinations in the Netherlands that have been linked to the Iranian government killing exiles. Awesome, right? Don't contact them again. Give us all your evidence, which I did, because we fear for your safety. I'm like, oh, that's lovely. Just what you want to hear, right? Yay! So after a year of everything going quiet, I go, it's over. They've tied it to another indictment. And so I can mention it. So I mentioned it last year, just before COVID tried to kill us all. And afterwards, someone took pictures of my house. posted some of my details on an extremist religious website, actually a series of them, saying that I was an enemy of Islam, saying that there was a fatwa against me. Pretty sure there isn't. Maybe there is. I don't know. And decided to dox me. Luckily, I spoke with a couple of European country certs with friends that I knew who did some takedowns of this, because it was pretty rude. So I go, all right, you want to play dirty? Here's what I'm going to do. Because I like to hack stuff. I really like to hack stuff. So there was this law that came into being in late 2019 in Iran, which said any mixed gender entertainment and restaurant facility must have a camera looking at the people eating to make sure that, women don't take off their hijab, or that a bachelor man is not sitting in what's called the family section. And, if all of those restaurants, all of those entertainment places are going to go back to the religious portion of their police, what are the odds that it's highly insecure? What do you think? 120%. So I ended up finding over 10,000 of them. I could adjust the resolution. I could turn the audio on if it was capable. And so I turned their surveillance state against them and ended up giving that information to some of my US military contacts. Because why not? Because if they were going to mess with me, I was going to mess with them. This is just a bit of an overview of some of the more common areas of exploitation in Iran. Weirdly enough, Stuxnet affected the protocol S7, and they still have some of those systems up, but also points to the fact that they're using equipment that they're not supposed to be using because of sanctions. So, this year, in January, there was another article, because I did a podcast for the Middle East Institute about the whole thing. And I got some very interesting messages from the same phone number as this agent handler over WhatsApp. I'm like, awesome. And he references this article, and he's pissed, very angry, and says some very interesting things. So I contact some friends. And this is the great thing about conferences like this, is you meet people. You never know who the person is in the audience or you're getting coffee with until you actually get to really meet them. And one had been a former private investigator for a particular intelligence agency, and another one had worked for the terrorism police. And I contacted them, gave them the information. They said it was a credible threat. The local police had to get involved, Dutch National Terrorism Police. The police spoke to my neighbors, who had no idea what I did. And one set of neighbors had just had a kid, like a week earlier. So they got this newborn baby. Knock, knock, knock. We're being told by the police, listen, there's this, issue. If you see anything suspicious, do not call the non-emergency line. Call 112. There are now extra patrols. I'm like, oh, great. So the police just outed me. All my neighbors are freaking out. They're like, oh, my God, this place is going to get shot up. What's going to go on? Is my mail going to go boom? Right? And the FBI, Secret Service got involved as well as Scotland Yard because of this particular story. So I was advised to leave my house in February. And I was not able to return until mid-September. So I had to be at various safe house locations in different countries and so forth. So it was a lot of fun. I did kind of miss my bed. Yeah. So, now it pissed me off because I don't like to get bullied. So one of my friends is like, give me the phone number that they used. All right, here's the phone number showing on WhatsApp. And he comes back with, well, here's social media it's registered to. We know their location. Oh, and also, there's a domain that's been registered linked to this phone number. So I go to take a look at the URL and the IP address behind it. It turns out it's this whole nest of Iranian propaganda and fake news and stuff like that, as well as some kind of, what do you call it, phishing websites, fake websites, scam websites that were trying to get credentials and Saudi Aramco employees to log into. Now, again, revenge. I really don't like to be bullied. So I handed this information over to the Department of Justice, and in June, they seized their websites, and the, I can say this, absolute idiot gave up an entire operation by sending me angry messages. Yes. So, present day, I've been getting a series of these. Somehow, the tweet on the left, I thought it was funny. Turns out, no. I started getting a series of death threats in various languages. This is just one that's translated to English. What's interesting is, and really I think it's kind of funny, while I was coming here last evening, because I came from this place called NATO's Southern Hub, which handles southern operations for the world, like the Middle East, Northern African region. And I get contacted over Twitter, and there's a few researchers who are like, hey, my stuff has just been doxxed, and I started getting death threats. So we're now compiling some of these stories up, because it turns out that the Iranian government just thinks that they can bully anyone, anywhere in the world. And so I'm going to have to formulate another series of revenge attacks, legally. Trust me if there's any police listening. Because I'm myself and the others are actually tired of having to deal with this stuff. It wouldn't be such a big deal if we didn't know that sometimes things go boom, sometimes people do get killed. The Iranian government, not the Iranian people, but the Iranian government is not a very nice government, unfortunately. So right now, like I had to get an armed escort to go to NATO from the airport and back. There's all sorts of new protections in Amsterdam for me. I spent half a day last week with the police. So it can be interesting sometimes, being a security researcher or an ethical hacker. Our skill set can be in high demand, especially for sanctioned countries. And to throw it for even more of kind of like a twist, one of the reasons this started was in 2015, a former US Air Force intelligence person defected to Iran by the name of Monica Witt. And she helped the Iranian government try to recruit people through social media. And has done a series of very, very bad operations and works with this group called Charming Kittens, if you've ever heard of them. So she is a wanted individual, obviously. And there's also a tie to the recent indictment of few Iranians for sending email messages to registered voters during the last presidential election, threatening them and saying that they were from the Proud Boys, which is this kind of extremist, kind of racist group, saying if you don't vote for Trump, you know, something bad's going to happen. So the Iranian government's interesting. That's all I can say about that. So we'll see what happens out of this. The thing is, there's a lot of espionage that goes on in the Middle East. That's not the only place it goes on, obviously. You should check out the Hague sometime. But more and more, our regular cybersecurity, log collection, things like this, you never know if there's some sort of espionage going on, whether it's industrial or nation state, especially if they want certain types of intellectual property. I have been involved now in a couple of cyber warfare incidents, and Iran just loves to stoke the fire. It's not the easiest thing to try to report these things, because I remember last February, I first tried to contact the local police, going, yeah, I'm calling on the non-emergency number. I don't really know what to do, but I'm getting death threats from the Iranian government. And the guy bursts out laughing. Because what do you say to somebody like that? And I just burst out laughing. I'm like, listen, all you have to do is Google my name. This is a known issue. So you have to know friends who can get you the proper connections and advise you. And it's always great to meet people at conferences. So, hey. And I really do believe the more that they mess with me, the more I'm going to go back on them. So be very careful, IOT. The S in IOT stands for security. So, yeah. I will see what I do next. And the rest of us now that are forming a group who keep getting these types of death threats, doxing, etc. Am I out of time? I wanted to leave time for questions. So I wanted to give a shout out to DeepSec because they also did some things for me to keep my presence private here until I showed up. I do have some examples of some of the places I hacked in Iran and hacked the world with OSINT and North Korea. I don't know. I just like to hack stuff. And if you want to get in touch with me, my profile is on the Middle East Institute website, and you can contact me that way. Or if I have any more business cards left, I might have one or two, I can give you a business card. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the audience?
They're thinking of lunch, right? That's why I didn't want it to be too long. I also hate long presentations because, you know, attention span and then food. I got one. Yes. I do love questions, by the way.
Well, this is like normal talk on the scientific conference where you present the results and this is everything is finished. So this seems like a beginning of the story.
Yes.
So the question is, what next?
Wow, that's what I'm coming up with. I've already started some legwork of having some very nice fun, especially in the arena of doxing, because if the Iranian government wants to dox us, dox family members, etc., it's amazing how many databases are online in Iran. So, yeah, who knows? But formulating a plan.
Thank you. There's another question over here.
Tell me, Chris, do you have IoT devices at home?
No, not unless I'm using them for pen testing. No, no, nope.
Good decision.
I even have like a separate anonymous phone with no SIM that I hacked that makes it think that it's got a SIM that's Signal with no attached accounts or anything. Anything on my regular phone I consider hacked. So, yeah, no.
All right, any more questions? Don't be shy. We have a lot of time. We also have one question on the stream. I think it's very interesting because Falco Weiss asks you, do you have a bodyguard here on DeepSec?
Why is he trying to find out if there's a vulnerability?
I can ask him, I'll get back to you.
Yeah. I have had to travel to locations and do talks with bodyguard in the audience that happened with a DEF CON Sky Talk when I was describing another ISIS with Iranian influence issue where they hacked the Saudi Arabian Embassy in The Hague and threatened to kill 432 people if we did not pay them $50 million and wanted to blow up a national landmark in the Netherlands called the Kerr House. And because of that particular talk, I had to have a bodyguard in the audience, and someone had brought in their like toddler, and right when I'm about to start talking, guys, ah, and we're like, fuck. So yeah, you know, luckily it was a kid, did not have a gun. You never know in America, because they make kid-sized guns, man, like powder blue and pink for kids, like shotguns. You never know. They could have toddler guns. So yeah, there are some times where I have to have a bodyguard, or I have to be with the police, or I have to be in a safe house. It's been going on for a while, usually Iranian related, funny enough. I don't know. It's a love-hate relationship. I love to hack their stuff, they hate me. Simple.
All right, any more questions? In that case, thank you very much for your talk. Thank you for putting up with all this, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.